Seeking companionship, Diane visited her local animal shelter and immediately felt a connection with an old orange cat. The cat's calm demeanor and warm amber eyes won her over. Diane adopted the cat, hoping to give it a loving home in its twilight years. She soon took her new companion to the veterinarian for a routine checkup, expecting nothing more than a standard visit. However, as the vet examined the cat, his face fell, and with a heavy heart, he turned to Diane saying, "I'm sorry," revealing a truth that Diane was not prepared for. Diana felt the anxiety creep up on her as she saw the vet's face change from a comforting, relaxed smile to a depressed, serious expression. She knew that he had found something that worried him, and considering the age of her new feline companion, it could be very bad news. She held her breath as the vet spoke those worrying words. "I'm sorry." Diana feared that the vet would tell her that there was something very wrong with the health of her cat Tumper. He could need a very expensive procedure, maybe one that would significantly impact the rest of his life. Or maybe the poor animal was even beyond saving at this point. That was no doubt the worst-case scenario. But as the vet finally managed to get a couple more words out, Diana quickly realized that this was not the case at all. In fact, the vet managed to confirm that Tumper's heath was actually of very little concern. For his age, he was in a very good shape. This, of course, comforted Diane, but also made her even more curious about what the vet said, "I'm sorry for." The vet continued to explain what had caused his reaction. He turned to Dina with regret, easily readable on his face, and told her that she should not have this cat in her car. She could not be the owner of it, and he could not let her take it with her again. This confession stumped Diana completely. What the hell did he even mean with these words? Diana had adopted Tumper from the shelter, signed all the paperwork, and even made the necessary payments. She was the legal owner of Tumper at this point, and there was nothing the vet could do about this. But still, the man held very firm in his assessment. And when Diana asked for him to clarify his position, she did not get a reason in return. Diana was getting incredibly frustrated and even angry at this point. When she realized that she was not going to get an answer from the vet, Diana decided to go for the more extreme option and tried to grab Tumper off the table, catching the vet very much off guard. With the cat in her arms, she ran out of the clinic with the vet yelling at people to stop her. But lucky for Diana, the other people in the waiting room and even other employees were caught off guard and reacted too slowly. She had already made her way out of the front door before they had even gotten up from their seats. Diana had managed to escape, but she knew that this situation was anything but over right now. She looked behind her, and the employees of the clinic had seemingly finally woken up to the situation as they came rushing out of the building. They were coming after her. One was even on the phone, and Diana could clearly hear her say, "Hello, police?" Diana needed to react quickly and rushed towards her car, while Tumper was still surprisingly relaxed in her arms. Diana managed to get to her car and drive away just before the employees of the vet managed to make their way to her. She had escaped, but she had no idea how much trouble she was really in. It had all gone so fast, and she had made her decision in split seconds, and she doubted if she had made the right assessment. But now there was no way back. When she was far away enough from the clinic, Diana parked the car to regain her composure for a second and try to think of what she was supposed to do next. She looked at Tumper next to her, who was just calmly lying down in the passenger seat. She felt such a sense of love for this animal that it almost convinced her that she had made the right decision to run away with him. She just wanted to go home now. Diane's heart sank as she approached her home, only to be greeted by flashing police lights. The serene evening shattered by the reality that her impulsive decision had escalated into a serious situation. Tumper, still calm beside her, seemed oblivious to the chaos that awaited outside. Diane's mind raced, trying to piece together how a simple act of compassion had led to this moment. The presence of law enforcement confirmed her worst fears. Diane's attempt to protect Tumper had not gone unnoticed. It had, in fact, drawn significant attention. The sight of police cars outside her home was a stark realization that her actions had consequences far beyond what she had anticipated. A mix of fear and disbelief washed over her as she processed the scene before her. Diane felt a wave of panic. The reality of police waiting at her doorstep because of her decision to flee with Tumper was overwhelming. Her heart pounded as she considered the potential repercussions of her actions. The thought of facing the authorities and explaining her side filled her with dread. The situation was spiraling beyond her control, and she felt utterly unprepared for what lay ahead. Confronted with the immediate threat of legal trouble, Diane knew she had to make a quick decision. Her mind whirled with options, each scenario playing out with uncertainty. Turning back seemed impossible, yet facing the police felt equally daunting. In that moment, her resolve hardened. She knew she couldn't risk losing Tumper or facing the consequences without understanding why. With a heavy heart, Diane chose to avoid the confrontation. She couldn't bear the thought of being separated from Tumper or the potential fallout of her actions being misinterpreted. Silently, she turned the car away from her home, seeking refuge elsewhere. It was a decision made out of desperation and love, hoping for a solution that would allow her to keep Tumper without further escalating the situation. Diane maneuvered her car into the dense woods, using the natural cover to shield her vehicle from prying eyes. The thick foliage obscured her presence, offering a temporary sanctuary from the ongoing pursuit. She understood the importance of remaining unseen, with Tumper quietly observing from the passenger seat. This hidden refuge in the woods became their makeshift haven, a silent witness to their plight. In the quiet of the forest, Diane paused to strategize her next move. Understanding that stealth was her ally, she plotted a course that would keep her and Tumper under the radar. The urgency of the situation weighed heavily on her, yet she found a moment of clarity among the trees. Every decision from here on out had to be calculated, with the stakes higher than ever before. As night enveloped the woods, Diane used the darkness as a cloak. She knew the cover of night was their best defense against being discovered. The darkness was both a comfort and a challenge, hiding them from view, but also amplifying the unknown. Diane remained alert, her senses heightened as she planned their next steps under the protective veil of twilight. Alone with Tumper, Diane prepared for the long night ahead. The silence of the woods was punctuated by the sounds of nature, a stark contrast to the chaos of their situation. Despite the uncertainty, Diane felt a deep resolve to protect Tumper at all costs. This quiet determination was her guiding light, steadying her nerves as she faced the unknown. Diane remained vigilant, aware of the potential for surveillance. The thought of being tracked through the woods was a constant concern, prompting her to choose her movements carefully. Every shadow and sound was scrutinized, a testament to the heightened state of alertness she maintained. In this game of hide and seek, Diane was determined not to be found, her every decision a step towards safeguarding Tumper's and her own safety. Secluded in her car among the trees, Diane pondered the enormity of her predicament. The quiet of the woods allowed her to reflect deeply on the path that lay ahead. With Tumper resting beside her, she weighed her limited options, each choice fraught with uncertainty. The stillness of the night was a stark contrast to the turmoil within as she considered the consequences of her next move. The thought of surrendering to the authorities, only to lose Tumper without understanding why, was unbearable for Diane. She couldn't fathom giving up without a fight, not when so many questions remained unanswered. This resolve strengthened her against the fear and doubt that threatened to overwhelm her. Diane knew that to turn back now would betray the commitment she had made to her feline companion. With a quiet determination, Diane began to outline her next steps. Secrecy and caution were paramount. She understood that any misstep could lead to their discovery. Her resolve to protect Tumper solidified into a plan that prioritized stealth and avoidance. This plan was their lifeline, a beacon of hope in the enveloping darkness of their situation. As she considered the potential repercussions of her actions, Diane found solace in the bond she shared with Tumper. The responsibility of care weighed heavily on her, but it was a burden she accepted willingly. This connection, forged in the short time they'd been together, reassured her that the sacrifices made were for a cause greater than herself. It was a testament to the depth of their companionship. The solitude of the night offered a rare opportunity for Diane to strategize uninterrupted. With the darkness as her cover, she meticulously planned each detail of their escape, considering every possible outcome. The hours passed slowly, each moment filled with the tension of anticipation. This night of planning was crucial, setting the stage for the uncertain journey that lay ahead. Diane meticulously packed the car with essentials, ensuring Tumper's comfort was at the forefront of her preparations. She included food, water, a cozy blanket, and Tumper's favorite toys. This wasn't just a journey, it was a leap into the unknown, and Diane wanted to make sure that Tumper felt as secure as possible, despite the uncertainties that lay ahead. The journey to the new city was fraught with tension. Each stop was a stark reminder of their precarious situation, their anonymity a fragile shield against the prying eyes of the world. Diane drove with a keen awareness of her surroundings, her eyes often glancing at the rearview mirror, wary of any signs that they might be followed. With every mile that passed, Diane navigated the dual sensations of anxiety and anticipation. The road ahead was uncertain, each turn a potential challenge to their safety. Despite this, a part of her was eager for what lay ahead, hopeful for a resolution and answers. This delicate balance of emotions kept her alert and focused on the journey's purpose. Amid the stress of their escape, the bond between Diane and Tumper only grew stronger. In the quiet moments of the drive, their connection offered a comforting constant. Tumper's presence was a soothing balm to Diane's frayed nerves, a reminder of why she was undertaking this perilous journey. Together, they faced the uncertainty, drawing strength from each other. As they arrived in the new city, Diane felt a mix of relief and apprehension. This city offered a chance to start anew, to seek answers without the immediate threat of detection. She knew that blending in was crucial, their continued anonymity essential for the next steps. With a cautious optimism, Diane prepared to navigate this unfamiliar environment, her resolve unwavering. In the quiet of the early morning, Diane arrived at a small vet clinic nestled on the outskirts of the city. With Tumper in tow, she sought not just medical insights, but answers to the enigma that had upturned their lives. The clinic, with its unassuming facade, promised a measure of anonymity, a place where questions could be asked without the echo of repercussions. The vet, sensing Diane's apprehension, offered assurances of privacy and confidentiality. This pledge provided Diane a fleeting sense of relief amidst the turmoil. For a moment, within the clinic's walls, she felt a reprieve from the constant vigilance that had become her new normal. It was a slender thread of hope, but one that Diane clung to, desperate for a semblance of security. As the vet examined Tumper, Diane watched with bated breath, hoping for revelations. Yet, the vet's findings were anticlimactic. Tumper was as ordinary as any cat, albeit exceptionally healthy for his age. This lack of anomalies only deepened the mystery, leaving Diane with more questions than answers. The absence of clues was disheartening, a puzzle without pieces, a story without an ending. Despite the vet's inability to unravel the mystery, Diane found herself placing her trust in him. It was a trust born of necessity, fragile and fraught with risk. She hoped that this new ally could shed light on Tumper's past, a past that remained stubbornly obscured. This fragile trust was a gamble, one that Diane felt compelled to take, driven by a desire for clarity and closure. The decision to contact the previous vet was fraught with danger. It was a direct link to her past actions, a thread that, if pulled, could unravel her carefully maintained anonymity. Yet, Diane understood that this risk might be the key to unlocking the mystery of Tumper's significance. It was a calculated risk, one that could either offer answers or expose her to the very threats she sought to escape. Diane sat in tense silence, her gaze fixed on the phone. The vet's promise to call with any news about Tumpa's past felt like a lifeline thrown in the midst of a storm. With each passing minute, her anticipation grew, a mix of hope and fear swirling within. This call could be the key to understanding Tumpa's mysterious background, a chance to finally piece together the puzzle that had upended their lives. As the vet's call stretched on, Diane's initial hope twisted into suspicion. The longer she waited, the more she questioned the vet's motives. Was he really trying to help, or had her trust been misplaced? The silence on the other end of the line was a void filled with doubt, each moment amplifying her fears that she might have walked into a trap of betrayal. Finally, the call ended, but not with the clarity Diane had hoped for. The vet's words were vague, leaving her with more questions than answers. Yet this lack of resolution only sharpened her determination. Diane resolved to seek the truth about Tumpa, no matter how deep she had to dig. This was a pivotal moment, one that reaffirmed her commitment to their cause. Despite the uncertainty and the risks, Diane decided to press on. The journey with Tumpa had taught her about courage and the importance of seeking truth. Her decision to trust was not naive, but a calculated choice. She understood the stakes, but believed in the necessity of their quest. With every step, Diane embraced the unknown, driven by the bond she shared with Tumpa. The vet's inability to provide alarming insights about Tumpa only deepened the enigma surrounding him. Diane found herself more intrigued by the mystery, compelled to uncover the layers of secrecy. The absence of clear answers didn't deter her. It propelled her forward, each unanswered question a beacon guiding her deeper into the labyrinth of their shared journey. The extended duration of the vet's call had Diane's heart racing, her mind overrun with scenarios of what could be said. The waiting was excruciating, a test of her patience and resolve. Each tick of the clock echoed loudly in the silent room, a constant reminder of the gravity of their situation and the potential revelations that awaited them. With every minute that passed without an update, Diane felt her resolve wavering. Her trust in the vet, once solid, began to crack under the pressure of silence. Doubt crept in, casting shadows on her hopes for a breakthrough. This period of waiting became a battleground for her confidence, each second a challenge to her determination to find the truth. The vet's silence was a heavy blanket of uncertainty that settled over Diane. It was a silence that spoke volumes, filled with the unsaid and the unknown. This quietude was not peaceful, but charged with the tension of unspoken fears and the weight of unanswered questions. Diane found herself caught in a limbo, grappling with the implications of what this silence might mean for their quest. As the wait dragged on, Diane prepared herself for any outcome. She braced for news that could change everything or confirm their deepest fears. The anticipation of the vet's call became a defining moment, a threshold between the past and an uncertain future. Diane stood on the precipice, ready to confront whatever truths lay on the other side of this silence. The waiting became a mental battle for Diane, a test of her patience and fortitude. Each minute tested her resolve, challenging her to maintain hope in the face of uncertainty. This period of suspense was a crucible, refining her determination and sharpening her will to pursue the truth, no matter how elusive it might prove to be. As Diane attempted to leave the vet's office, she found the doors locked, trapping her inside. Panic surged through her as she realized her exit was barred, the possibility of escape suddenly narrowing. The clinic, once a place of refuge, now felt like a cage. This unexpected turn forced Diane to consider desperate measures, her mind racing for solutions in the face of newfound confinement. Caught between the threat of capture and the instinct to flee, Diane weighed her options. Her heart pounded as she assessed her surroundings, looking for an escape route. The decision to run was driven by a primal urge to protect herself and Tumpa, a choice made in the split second of fear and determination. It was flight over fight, with freedom hanging in the balance. The sound of police sirens marked a sharp turn in Diane's plight. The arrival of law enforcement signaled that her situation had escalated beyond her worst fears. With the police closing in, the chase resumed, pushing Diane to the limits of her resolve. Each step was a bid for freedom, a desperate attempt to evade the consequences that now snapped at her heels. Confronted by the police, Diane found herself at a crossroads. The standoff was the culmination of her evasion, a moment frozen in time where all her choices led to this confrontation. Surrounded with Tumper by her side, she faced the stark reality of her limited options. In the silence of the standoff, Diane contemplated her next move, the weight of her decisions heavy upon her. The decision to surrender was not Diane's to make. It was forced upon her by the circling law enforcement. As she was taken into custody, her status shifted from a fugitive on the run to a detainee facing the consequences of her actions. The transition was swift, stripping her of autonomy, leaving her to navigate the legal repercussions that awaited. In the sterile environment of the interrogation room, Diane prepared herself for the ordeal ahead. The cold, hard table and the unyielding gaze of the interrogator set the stage for a confrontation filled with uncertainty. Diane braced for the worst, her mind racing through the events that had led her here, seeking closure and a way forward. The entry of the original vet and an officer into the interrogation room marked a turning point. Their presence, once a source of fear, now hinted at the possibility of understanding. This unexpected alliance formed in the quest for truth, suggesting that the narrative was about to shift in a direction Diane hadn't anticipated. The conversation that unfolded in the interrogation room revealed unexpected truths. Apologies were offered and explanations were given, shedding light on the misunderstandings that had propelled Diane's journey. This exchange of words, heavy with the weight of the past, began to redirect the story's course, offering clarity amidst the chaos that had ensnared Diane and Tumper. As the veil of mystery began to lift, Diane was presented with a new perspective on Tumper's significance. The explanations offered by the vet and the officer unraveled the layers of confusion, providing Diane with the insights she had desperately sought. This moment of revelation was a turning point, illuminating the path forward and reshaping her understanding of the journey she had undertaken. Diane was stunned to learn that Tumper's true origins traced back to being stolen from a local millionaire. This revelation offered a critical clue to the bizarre journey she had embarked on. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, shedding light on the confusion and chaos that had surrounded her and Tumper. The realization that she had inadvertently become part of a larger story was both shocking and illuminating. The discovery of Tumper's past transformed Diane's perception of herself from a fugitive to an unintentional hero. The revelation that she had rescued a stolen pet rather than unlawfully taking one redefined her actions and their consequences. This new understanding brought a sense of resolution to the turmoil, changing the narrative of her journey and her role within it. The notion of a reward for Tumper's return introduced a surprising twist to Diane's story. What began as a desperate bid to save a beloved pet morphed into an opportunity for a resolution that she had never anticipated. This unexpected chance for reconciliation and reward underscored the serendipitous turns her life had taken since Tumper's arrival. Faced with the new revelations about Tumper, Diane wrestled with the moral implications of her actions. The knowledge that Tumper belonged to someone else, someone who had been longing for his return, stirred a mix of emotions within her. This change of heart was a poignant reminder of the complex web of decisions and their unintended consequences. The path to returning Tumper to his rightful owner marked the beginning of the end of Diane's tumultuous journey. This step towards reconciliation was not just about rectifying a wrong. It was a gesture of healing for Diane, Tumper, and the millionaire who had lost him. It promised closure to a chapter filled with unexpected twists and turns. Upon Tumper's return, the millionaire's gratitude towards Diane and the vets was profound. This expression of thanks was not just for the act of returning Tumper, but for the care and protection he had received while away. The resolution of the conflict brought a sense of closure and gratitude that extended beyond words, binding them together in a shared experience of loss and recovery. The distribution of the reward was a tangible acknowledgement of the journey Diane had undertaken. It underscored the unexpected turns her life had taken since Tumpa's arrival. Reflecting on this, Diane recognised the reward not just as a financial boon, but as a symbol of the challenges overcome and the lessons learned along the way. Diane's final moments with Tumpa were filled with bittersweet emotions. As she prepared to say goodbye, gratitude for their time together mingled with the sadness of parting. This farewell was not just the end of their shared journey, but a testament to the deep bond they had formed, a bond that would linger long after Tumpa's departure. The return of Tumpa to his original owner closed a tumultuous chapter in Diane's life. It brought her peace, a resolution to the whirlwind of events that had upended her world. This closure was a turning point, offering her a chance to reflect on the journey, the growth it had spurred, and the quiet after the storm. With the ordeal behind her, Diane looked towards the future with newfound insight. The lessons learned from her journey with Tumpa had reshaped her understanding of love, loss, and the unexpected ways life unfolds. Facing what lay ahead, Diane felt a sense of readiness, fortified by the experiences that had challenged and ultimately changed her.